Alrighty, so today we're going to switch gears a little bit from what we've been working on, or what we worked on in the block period. And this isn't all going to make sense right now, but it will when we come back from Thanksgiving break. Instead of doing graphing today, we're going to work on what I'll call 5.3H. This is going to be dividing polynomials. Okay, so I'm going to go through and teach you guys here how to divide polynomials, and I'll go through and I'll show probably about 4 or 5 examples here of how to do it. There's a couple different ways to divide polynomials, but before I jump into how to do it, I just want to talk about big picture here. So earlier in the year and back in Algebra 1, you learned how to multiply polynomials. So for example, if I wrote 5x plus 3 times x minus 2, and you multiply that out, what you would get, and you can try it for yourself if you want, is 5x squared minus 7x minus 6, okay? But if you wanted to go back and think about this in reverse, my question for what we'll be working on today is, if this is a true statement, then what is 5x squared minus 7x minus 6 divided by x minus 2? Okay, well, if this is a true statement, then that means, if this first thing that we did was a true statement, then that means if I divide these, what I should get is I should get 5x plus 3. Okay? Similar to if I told you that 2 times 4 was equal to 8, then that means if you took 8 and divided it by 2, you should get exactly 4. Or if you took 8 and divided it by 4, you should get 2. It's the same kind of thing going on here, except this time we're working with polynomials. So, the first way to divide polynomials is something called, I'm going to go ahead and show you this process right now. It is called long division. Okay? There are certain times where you have to use long division, and then there are other times where you don't. But I'm going to go ahead and show you long division first. Just vocabulary here. This term that we are dividing, this is called the dividend. And this term right here is called the divisor. Okay? So we're going to set this up the same exact way as you did long division back when you were in 4th grade. We're going to draw this little half box right here. I'll call this the house. Underneath the house we put our dividend, 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. And on the outside of the box we put our divisor, which is x minus 2. Okay? So this is the same way you would set up regular long division. Here's what we do. First thing we ask ourselves, we're always looking at, for long division, this x and then the first number that we have on the inside. So we're going to ask ourselves, x times what gives me 5x squared? And the answer to that would be x times 5x. Okay, so that's going to be the first thing after my answer. And then, just like in long division, I'm going to take this number here and I'm going to distribute it to the x minus 2, and I'm going to see what I have left over. So 5x times x, that gives me a 5x squared. And 5x times negative 2, that gives me a negative 10x. Okay? And then if you'll remember, when you do regular long division, in the middle, you subtract. Okay? Now here's where people make mistakes. When they subtract, they forget to distribute this negative sign to all of this. So my recommendation is going to be at this step, put some parentheses so you remember to distribute the negative sign. Now we're going to subtract. These two terms should always cancel out. 5x squared minus 5x squared, those are going to cancel. When I do negative 7x minus negative 10x, minus the negative turns into positive, so negative 7 plus 10, that's 3x. I'm going to bring the minus 6 down, and then I'm going to start this process over again. Okay? So I'm once again going to ask myself, x times what gives me 3x? The answer to that would be positive 3. And then I'm going to distribute this positive 3. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And if I subtract these, the 3x and the 3x will cancel. And negative 6 minus negative 6, that becomes negative 6 plus 6. I get a remainder here of 0. So as we see, the answer that we get when we divide these is, as we expected, 5x plus 3. Okay? Here's another thing that won't make a ton of sense right now, but eventually we need to recognize this. If we get a remainder of 0, what that means is 5x plus 3 is a factor of 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. What that means is it divides evenly into 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. And we could also say that x plus 2 is a factor of this as well, because when we divided 5x squared minus 7x minus 6 by x minus 2, we got a remainder of 0. So these are just some of the big picture questions that we'll be asking as we move along here throughout the rest of this unit. If we get a remainder of 0, that means both our divisor and the answer that we get are factors of that original polynomial. Okay. Alright, we'll try one more example here of long division. Then I'm going to stop this video and I'll have another video to talk about the second type of division, which goes a little bit quicker. Okay, but for our next one, we're going to try this. We'll try 6x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus 3x minus 5. So here's my dividend, and we're going to divide that by 3x squared plus 2x. Okay. So, when we're setting up our problem this time, underneath our little house, here's my dividend, and then on the outside of my house, here's my divisor. Now what I want you to notice is in this dividend, this skips a power. It goes x to the 4th, x cubed, x, and nothing. It skips x squared. When you set this up, when we skip a power, I want you to put a 0 in as a placeholder. So here's what I mean. This goes 6x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus 0x squared plus 3x minus 5. So when you're done, you should be able to look at this and see it go in decreasing order. 4, 3, 2, 1, nothing. Okay? Then on the outside, this divisor, you'll notice that this skips a power as well. It does not have a constant. If there's no constant, I want you to put a 0 in place of that as well. So on the outside, what we're going to write is 3x squared plus 2x plus 0. So on the outside it also goes 2, 1, 0. This is going to help you because it'll keep everything lined up, right? So we're going to start our process right now. 3x squared times a what gives me 6x to the 4th? That would be 2x squared. Okay, and I'm going to distribute that 2x squared. I get 6x to the 4th plus 4x cubed plus 0 times 2 is 2, and I'm going to keep the x squared on this so that my x squares are lining up with each other. Okay, subtract, put parentheses. Okay, those cancel. Negative 5 minus 4, that's a negative 9x cubed. 0 minus 0 is 0x squared. And then I'm going to bring the rest of this down. Okay, and then I'm going to start my process over again. So 3x squared times a what gives me a negative 9x cubed. That's going to be a minus 3x. Distribute the negative 3x. We get negative 9x cubed minus 6x squared plus 0x. Add these together. Cancel 0 plus negative 6. That's going to give me a minus. I'm sorry, I should be subtracting here in the middle, not adding. My mistake. Negative 9 minus negative 9, those cancel. 0 minus negative 6, that gives me a positive 6x squared. 3x minus nothing, that's still going to be a plus 3x, and I'm going to bring the minus 5 down. Okay, and starting the process one more time, I'll have a plus 2. Okay, 3x squared times 2 gives me 6x squared. Distribute, I've got 6x squared plus 4x plus 0. Subtract all of this, put parentheses. These cancel. 3 minus 4 is a negative x. Negative 5 minus nothing is a negative 5. Once you get to this point where the exponent inside of here is less than the exponent here, you are done. Okay, now this differs from the previous problem because on the last problem we got a remainder of 0. This time we did not get a remainder of 0. Okay, so we can make a couple statements here. Neither the divisor nor the answer that I got are factors of this big dividend because we did not get a remainder of 0. Okay? Now later on in the unit, we'll just say, hey, we didn't get a remainder of 0. We'll toss this whole problem out and we'll move to something else. But for right now, while we're practicing division, just because you don't get a remainder of 0 doesn't mean that we're not going to still write the answer. So here's what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to start out by writing out this answer. 2x squared minus 3x plus 2. And then just like in regular long division, let's say for example I was dividing like 35 by 3. Okay, 3 goes into 3 once. Distribute, bring it down, drop the 5. 3 goes into 5, also one time. 1 times 3 is 3. And when I'm done, I would have a remainder of 2. What that means is my answer would be 11 and 2 divided by 3. It's going to be the same way here, except we need to use a plus sign. So moving back to this problem, we wrote down our answer, and then it's going to be plus this remainder, okay, plus this remainder, divided by our divisor on the outside, which is 3x squared plus 2x. So this is how we would write our final answer to this particular problem.